Good morning, hockey fans. This is Stephen Heisler with HeisHockey.com, the Victorious Hockey Company, and the Junior Hockey Discussion Group on Facebook. You are watching the Junior Hockey Morning Show. We are on the World Sports Broadcasting Network, WSBN.TV, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube. Hopefully this morning in your living room, in your car, maybe you're at the hockey rink, celebrating this amazing Monday, June 19th, the Juneteenth day, an official federal holiday today. So none of you should be working, like me. Today is the Monday Mash. We're going to go into two subjects that are somewhat related. The Wenatchee Wild move from the BCHL to the Western Hockey League, and then also touching on college hockey's continuous ban of major junior hockey players from the Ontario Hockey League, the Quebec Hockey League, and the Western Hockey League. Rumors are flying around right now that ban is about to be removed. So let's start with Wenatchee. Wenatchee Wild make major move. Sometimes when an opportunity knocks, one can't help but open the door. That statement pretty much summarizes Wenatchee Wild owner David White's decision to purchase the Winnipeg Ice and move them from Winnipeg, Manitoba to Wenatchee, Washington. Folks around the game have been speculating that David White knew he was going to make this move months ago. I think that we knew years ago that was the ultimate goal for Wenatchee. It makes a lot of sense. It wasn't sure if the market could sustain it. That has improved otherwise. There were 5 teams in the United States before Wenatchee got that WHL team. And it just made sense geography-wise and for local rivals. Although in no way thrilled by the move, the British Columbia Hockey League took the high road when the relocation of the WHL was mentioned. And it certainly did. In the press release, the BCHL, really it was going to be Chilliwack, Wenatchee, a couple other opportunities or targets for that team. In the end, the BCHL kind of knew they were going to lose one of their teams as a result of this move. Western Hockey League's a little bit higher level of play than the BCHL. So it wasn't a big surprise that one of the markets were going to be taken out. Chilliwack was the other possibility. That was rejected by the arena, and David White got a price probably that he couldn't refuse. Some folks around the game have speculated that the Wild knew the acquisition of the major junior ice was going to be a possibility. I can say this. Talas and I drove from Florida all the way to Las Vegas, Nevada for Wenatchee's camp there in Las Vegas, Prospect Camp. Nobody there was thinking they were not going to have a BCHL team. Everything about that camp was in preparation for the upcoming BCHL season. Period. Kids that moved on from that camp in Las Vegas to the Wild main camp in Wenatchee just a few weeks ago. Again, they assembled a group of players that were absolutely fantastic. The Wild staff certainly had no indication this was happening at all. Shocker. And that goes from Troy Mick to Bliss, to other guys in that staff, there was no absolutely idea this was a possibility or this would be happening in advance of this upcoming season. Period. Anybody that continues to go out and yap, Fargo Force guy, is making an ass out of themselves. Our clients that were at that camp in Wenatchee said they experienced the highest level of play at a camp they have ever seen in their entire life. Had never seen anything like that. Players from all over the continent were assembled by the Wenatchee staff, and the level of play was over the top. They were going to build a monster BCHL team for this upcoming season. In more than a decade of being friends with Bliss Littler, there's never been a time ever that anything was done without the highest level of sincerity and respect for the game. This guy is exactly that. When we first became friends, I was a bit of a wild child when it comes to my coverage of junior hockey. Bliss got involved and changed everything. And that's good. Probably the smartest move of my career was listening to Bliss Littler. And I'm sure there's a lot of guys out there in every aspect of the game could probably say the same thing. Bliss has that kind of influence over those he's around. Just an amazing guy, amazing sincerity. And this situation, although not exactly what happened according to plan, I'm sure they wanted to acquire the team, communicate with all the players, communicate with their staff. The last thing they wanted to do was have something leaked out of Canada. But that's what happened. That pushed the timetable up very, very quickly. And here's where we are. For Littler and his staff, now the real work is going to get started. They are literally months behind their rivals when it comes to assembling a new roster for this 23-24 campaign. But they also need an entirely new staff. I think you'll see different coaches. I think you're going to see the absolute requirement for a very new scouting staff that's familiar with scouting these kind of players. And then the conversation switches from, are you going to be an NCAA bound player or are you going to be a NHL bound player? And that discussion is continuous. And with Bliss's high level of respect for college hockey and what he's done to date, over the years to get kids to college hockey, I'm sure that this next subject's going to hit really close to home. Before getting into that, we can say this. Wenatchee has just dove into the deep end of the pool. We're going to find out how they swim. This upcoming season can be horrendous or they can be competitive. The moves they make right now will set the foundation for that club's success in the Western Hockey League. Next, NCAA to reconsider major junior eligibility. You know what? I think a lot of what happened in Wenatchee comes into play with what we're about to say next. Players in major junior hockey lose their college eligibility since they're considered professionals. But the lines between professional and amateur have been blurred now that the NCAA allows its athletes to profit off their name, image, and likeness, or NIL. The NCAA is steering into uncharted waters with the new NIL rules. There's no playbook. and there's a lot of possibilities for student athletes. NIL has changed everything. But for me, the most important change hasn't occurred yet. But I think it's about to happen. Now, there's a very high likelihood that the exception for hockey that are being used by the NCAA to keep the Canadian Hockey League players ineligible will face a legal challenge in the very near future. I'm hearing that can happen as early as mid-July. And the NCAA really has no answer for such a legal challenge. Why? What can they say? In a time where the word equality is being tossed around like a football in the fall, it's clear that hockey is being discriminated against by the NCAA. Let's face it, major junior players get little more than hamburger and toothpaste money, while college football players and basketball players are rolling into practice in new Porsches. The money flowing is ridiculous. So enough already. Let's call it what it really is. Those rules are in place to protect the United States Hockey League. The USHL is already doing well when it comes to National Hockey League draft picks and Division I commits, and they have an advantage over their Canadian Hockey League counterparts. That only proves that America's Tier 1 league no longer needs such protections from the NCAA. Continuing to do so goes completely against what's good for the game and college hockey. Those Canadian Hockey League players are only going to enhance the level of play at the collegiate level of play. NCAA hockey will get much better if those kids are eligible. What is the problem? They finish their career in the Canadian Hockey League. You know what? Do I go pro? Do I go to the ECHL? Do I go to the SPHL? Or do I go to school? Why not give those kids that option? It doesn't make any sense that we're continuing to block them. Enough already. Again, hockey should not be treated any different than the rest of NCAA sanctioned athletics. The reason they still want to stop the Canadian Hockey League players from going to the NCAA is this. Some NHL players or drafted players are signed and returned to their clubs. And to the NCAA, that's the equivalent of putting a piece of poop in the punch bowl. Oh, there's a professional player over there. All those kids are ineligible. But that only applies to soccer. If a college soccer player decides in the offseason to play for one of these United Soccer League clubs, he can play alongside professionals all summer long. They can play games against full professional teams. It happens every summer. But here we are. Oh, no, that's okay for soccer. Can't do that for hockey. Makes no sense. These kids deserve the chance to develop their abilities in preparation for the collegiate or professional levels of the game. Same way for baseball. They make a decision. They sign a contract. They get paid. But they make a decision. Do I continue on to professional baseball? Or do I go to school? With 9 major junior teams now in the United States, it's clearly time to end the charade that is restricting college hockey eligibility. It's over. We're done with it. That's it for today, folks. Hope that you enjoy your morning coffee.